If you're missing baby Jesus, call 7162. When I was a child, my father worked for an oil company in North Dakota. The company moved him around to different parts of the state, and at some point, between one move and another, we lost our family nativity set. Shortly before Christmas in 1943, my mother decided to replace it and was happy to find another at our local five and dime for only $3.99. When my brother Tom and I helped her unpack the set, we discovered two figures of the baby Jesus. Someone must have packed this wrong, my mother said, counting out the figures. We have one Joseph, one Mary, three wise men, three shepherds, two lambs, a donkey, a cow, an angel, and two babies. Oh dear, I suppose some set down at the store is missing baby Jesus. You two run back to the store and tell the manager that we have an extra Jesus. Tell him to put a sign on the remaining boxes saying that if a set is missing a baby Jesus, call 7162, my mother instructed. And don't forget your mufflers. It's freezing cold out there. The manager of the store copied down my mother's message, and the next time we were in the store, we saw the cardboard sign that read, "If you're missing baby Jesus, call 7162. All week long, we waited for the call to come. Surely, we thought, someone was missing the important figurine. Each time the phone rang, my mother would say, "I'll bet it's about Jesus," but it never was. My father tried to explain that the figurine could be missing from a set in Walla Walla in Washington, and that packing errors occur all the time. He suggested we put the extra Jesus back in the box and forget about it. Back in the box, I wailed. What a terrible thing to do to the baby Jesus. And at Christmas time, too. Surely someone will call, my mother said. We'll just keep them together in the manger until someone calls. When no call had come by 5 on Christmas Eve, my mother insisted that my father just run down to the store to see if there were any sets left. You can see them right through the window over on the counter, she said. Run down to the store, my father thundered. It's 15 degrees below zero out there. My father gave a long sigh and headed for the front closet. I can't believe I'm doing this, he muttered. Each time the phone rings, everybody yells at me to see if it's about Jesus, and now I'm going off in the coldest night of the year to peek in a window to see if he's there or not there. My father muttered all the way down the block, while my brother and I raced each other up to the window where the tiny lights flickered on and off around the frame. "They're all gone, Daddy," I shouted. "Every set must be sold." "Hooray, hooray," my brother joined in, catching up with me. "The mystery will be solved tonight." My father, who had remained several steps behind us, turned on his heel and headed back home. Inside the house once more, we saw the extra figurine had vanished from the set, and my mother appeared to have vanished too. Someone must have called, and she went out to deliver the figurine, my father reasoned, pulling off his boots. "You kids get busy stringing popcorn strands for the tree, and I'll wrap your mother's present." We had almost completed one strand when the phone rang. My father yelled for me to answer it. "Tell them we found a home for Jesus," he called down the steps. But the caller was not an inquirer. It was my mother, with instructions for us to come to 205 Chestnut Street immediately and bring 3 blankets, a box of cookies, and some milk. "Now what has she gotten us into?" my father groaned as we bundled up again. 205 Chestnut Street? Why, that's about 8 blocks away. "I'll wrap that milk up good in the blankets or it will turn into ice by the time we get there. It's probably 20 degrees below out there now." Of all the crazy things to do on a night like this. Tommy and I sang Christmas songs all the way to Chestnut Street. My father, carrying his bundle of blankets and milk, looked for all the world like St. Nicholas himself, had his arms full of goodies. The house at 205 Chestnut Street turned out to be the darkest one on the block. One tiny light burned in the living room. And the moment we set foot on the porch step, my mother opened the door and shouted, "They're here! They're here! Oh, thank goodness you got here, Ray. You kids take those blankets into the living room and wrap up the little ones on the couch. I'll take the milk and cookies." "Would you mind telling me what is going on, Ethel?" my father asked. "We've just walked through below zero weather with the wind in our faces all the way." "Oh, never mind all that now," my mother interrupted. "There's no heat in this house, and this young mother is so upset she doesn't know what to do. Her husband walked out on her, and these poor children will have to spend a very bleak Christmas, so don't you complain. I told her you could fix that oil furnace in a jiffy. My mother went to the kitchen to warm the milk while my brother and I wrapped up the 5 little children who were huddled together on the couch. The children's mother explained to my father that her husband had run off, taking bedding, clothing, and almost every piece of furniture. But she'd been doing all right until the furnace broke down. I've been washing and ironing for people and cleaning the 5 and dime, she said. I saw your number every day there on those boxes on the counter. When the furnace went out, that number kept going through my mind, 7162, 7162. It said on the box that if a person was missing Jesus, they should call you. And that's how I knew that you were good Christian people, willing to help folks. I figured that maybe you could help me too. So I stopped at the grocery store tonight, and I called your missus. I'm not missing Jesus, mister, because I sure love the Lord. But I'm missing heat. We don't have any bedding nor warm clothes. I got a few Christmas toys for them, but I don't have any money to fix that furnace. Okay, my father said kindly. You've come to the right place. Now, let's see. Got a little oil burner over there in the dining room. Shouldn't be too hard to fix. Probably just a clogged flue. I'll look it over and see what it needs. My mother came into the living room carrying a plate of cookies and a tray with warm milk. As she set the cups down on the coffee table, I noticed the figure of baby Jesus lying in the center of the table. It was the only sign of the Christmas season in the house. The children stared wide-eyed with wonder at the plate of cookies my mother set before them. One of the littlest ones woke up and crawled out from under the blanket. Seeing all the strangers in his house, he began to cry. My mother swooped him up in her arms and began to sing to him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing, she crooned while the child wailed. Haste, haste to bring him laud, the babe, the son of Mary, she sang, oblivious to the child's cries. She sang and danced the baby around the room until he settled down again. You hear that, Chester? The young mother said to another child. That woman is singing about the Lord Jesus. He won't ever walk out on us. Why, he sent these people to us just to fix our furnace. And blankets we got now, too. Oh, we'll be warm tonight. My father, finishing his work on the oil burner, wiped his hands on his muffler and said, I've got it going, but you need more oil. I'll make a few calls tonight when I get home and we'll get you some oil. Yes, sir, you came to the right place, he grinned. When my father calculated that the furnace was going strong once more, our family bundled up and made our way home. My father didn't say a thing about the cold weather and had barely set foot inside the front door when he was on the phone. Ed? Hey, how are you? I heard him say. Say, Ed, we have kind of an unusual situation here, and I know you've got that pickup truck. I wonder if you could round up some of the boys and find a Christmas tree, and a couple things for... The rest of the conversation was lost in the blur of words as my brother and I ran to our rooms and began pulling clothes out of our closets and toys off of our shelves. My mother checked through our belongings for sizes and games she said might do, and added some of her sweaters and slacks to our stack. We were up way past our bedtime that night wrapping our gifts. The men my father had called found oil for the furnace, bedding, 2 chairs, 3 lamps, and had made 2 trips to 205 Chestnut before the night was done. Our gifts were piled into the truck on the second trip, and even though it must have been 30 degrees below by then, my father let us ride along the back of the truck. No one ever did call about the missing figurine in the Nativity set, but as I grow older, I realize that it wasn't a packing mistake at all. By Gene Geetson. If you're missing baby Jesus, call 7162 from Christmas Stories from the Heart, 1997, Multnomah Publisher.